I think the best way I could answer that question is to talk a bit about when I went back to the Caribbean to teach, which was back in, I guess, 1997. And one of the things that I recognized really quickly was that the textbooks and so on that we were using talked very much from an American perspective usually, but certainly a developed country perspective. And the examples and cases and things like that tended to be all about large multinational firms. And so much of it just wasn't appropriate for us in the Caribbean. So of course in class I tried to bring in different kinds of things that were Caribbean oriented and talk about small companies because again our companies, the largest ones are what you'd consider maybe medium sized in England or North America or Europe. And as you start doing that, you start realizing that there are a complete set of issues that are different in developing countries. And there really wasn't much material about developing countries. I guess within that context, I do feel I've produced something that's, worthwhile that people will find really helpful. Cultural differences, obviously, and there are lots of cultural differences among developing countries, but there are things like the fact that they simply are poorer, they have less infrastructure, their governments tend to be different, even when they are democracies, there are the new democracies, a lot of post-colonial influence, so all of those things, because they're different, I think whether you're a reader who comes from a developed country or from a developing country, that sort of, it brings that out, and I hope that's what resonates, and that those things, I guess the important thing too is that those things influence what's appropriate in terms of management. You have to take those things into account. But it's definitely primarily written as a text. So, my thinking was what would students find worthwhile and so on. I like to think, however, that the way I write would also be of interest to people who are going to manage in a developing country. Or in some cases in the book, I've tried to look at it from the perspective of people coming from developing countries to develop, because of course recently we have a lot more companies from developing countries who are investing in fact in developed countries, and so I've kind of tried to look at it from both perspectives. Probably the title. It's about management and how developing country issues affect management.